The goblin landed on top of the SUV with enough force to crush the roof flat. Metal screamed. Glass exploded across the intersection. For exactly 1 second, nobody moved. The creature straightened slowly, gray-green skin, jagged teeth, eyes that burned with animal hunger. Then it smiled. The nearest man didn't even have time to scream. One swipe. Blood splashed across the white stripes of the crosswalk. His body hit the pavement a heartbeat later. Only then did the city wake up. People scattered in every direction. Someone abandoned a stroller. A woman lost her shoe and kept running anyway. Cars slammed into each other as terrified drivers tried to reverse through traffic. High above the intersection, the air ripped open again. Then again. Then again. Kim Jowoung didn't run. His heartbeat thundered against his ribs. His hands trembled, but his eyes never left the creature. A goblin. The words escaped before he realized he'd spoken. Basic monster. Level 1. 6-meter aggro radius. Half-second wind-up before the first swing. Weak point behind the jaw. He knew every detail, because he'd spent 2 years killing thousands of them. On a computer screen. Not here. Not like this. The goblin turned. Its eyes locked onto him. Jowoung felt every hair on his arms stand up. This isn't that he swallowed. Possible. The monster lunged, and the entire sky turned blue. The tutorial has begun. Choose your class. Time remaining. 00:59. The goblin froze mid-lunge, claws inches from Jowoung's throat, suspended like a photograph. Everyone froze. The whole street. The whole world. Maybe. Screaming mothers and stalled drivers and a delivery man with blood soaking through his vest. All of them staring up at the same blue light with the same blank, unraveling expression. The expression of people watching the floor they're standing on turn out to be painted on. Jowoung didn't freeze. His hand rose before his mind had finished catching up to it. An old reflex, muscle memory from 1,000 nights hunched over a keyboard in a room that smelled like instant noodles and unpaid bills. A list unspooled in front of him. Warrior, mage, assassin, priest. Names he'd seen 1,000 times. In a font he'd know blind, he scrolled past all of them without slowing down. Ranger, somewhere in the frozen crowd. A stranger's eyes flicked toward his selection and narrowed. Why would anyone pick that? It's a nightmare to learn. It takes 40 hours before it does anything useful. And Jowoung almost laughed, because that was exactly the point. Nobody remembered the Ranger. Nobody remembered the quiet, buried string of requirements at level 50 that nobody had ever bothered finishing, because nobody had ever had a reason to. He had a reason now. His thumb hovered over the confirmation. 1 second. That was all it took. 1 second where the number didn't matter, where the bow and the traps and the hidden class 49 levels away didn't matter, where none of it was a game anymore and all of it was a decision he could not take back, made with a dying man's blood cooling 6 feet away and a goblin's claws frozen a breath from his throat. He pressed it anyway. Class selected. Rangered, starting equipment granted. Wooden bow. Training dagger. Time remaining. 0:12. The blue light folded itself away. The world exhaled. Sound rushed back in all at once. Screaming. Horns. The goblin's claw already completing its arc. He drew and loosed in the same motion, the way he'd done it 10,000 times on a screen. The arrow went wide, clipping the goblin's shoulder instead of its throat, and his body, his actual body, 22 years and untrained, screamed at him that it had never held a bow before tonight. The goblin didn't care that the shot was ugly. It came anyway. He didn't think. His offhand found the dagger at his hip, a motion his fingers knew from 100 fights he'd only ever watched play out in pixels. And he dropped low, under the claw, close enough to smell rot and ozone, and drove the blade up into the soft place behind its jaw the way a wiki page he'd read 3 years ago said you should. It wasn't clean. It wasn't fast. His arm shook with the effort of it, and the goblin twitched twice against the blade before it finally went still, and Kim Jowoung stayed crouched over it a second too long, breathing like something had almost taken the breath from him for good. A small window blinked open at the edge of his vision, one only he could see. Hidden condition met. First player to kill a goblin without taking damage. Failed. Hidden condition met. That a player has reached a condition not recorded in the original tutorial. He almost laughed. Almost. Silence, for exactly as long as it takes a city to remember how to breathe. Kim Jowoung stood over it, chest heaving, hands shaking, and for the first time in 2 years felt something close to certain. Not because it had gone well, but because he was still standing. He looked down at his hands. Then at the second tear opening near the overpass, and the third beyond it, and however many more were opening across a city that no longer had a floor under it. It's worse than the game, he murmured. There's no reset button here. Chapter 2. The second window opened before the first body had gone cold. Welcome to the tutorial zone. Players remaining. 8 for 21. 903. First mission. Survive for 24 hours. Kim Jowoung read it twice. Around him, the street had stopped being a street. The cars were still there. The crosswalk paint was still there, but something underneath all of it had changed. The way a room feels different the moment you learn someone died in it. 8 million for 100,000 people, just in this instance. Just the ones still breathing. He should have felt relief at that number. Instead, his stomach dropped, because he was already doing the math a normal person wouldn't think to do. Survive for 24 hours. In the game, the one he'd sunk 2 years and a dead-end life into. The tutorial lasted 7 days. 7 days of goblins. Wooden weapons. Terrified beginners slowly learning how not to die. He knew the rhythm by heart. Day 1. Goblins. Day 3. The first named elite. Day 7. The tutorial ended, and every survivor entered the real world beyond. His eyes drifted lower. A line of text sat beneath the mission, small enough that almost nobody seemed to notice. Tutorial duration, 30 days. His heart skipped. He blinked once. Then again. 30, not 7. No. His voice barely escaped his throat. That wasn't possible. He had memorized every guide, every hidden quest, every developer interview, every data mine mechanic the community had uncovered over the last decade. There had never been a 30-day tutorial. Never. Hey, a voice interrupted him. Jowoung looked up. A young man, maybe 20, stood a few meters away holding a wooden staff. The crystal at its tip glowed with faint blue light. Mage. One of the safest beginner classes. The man glanced between Jowoung and the goblin corpse. You picked Ranger. It sounded almost offended. Nobody does that. Jowoung stayed silent. It takes forever to become useful. You could have been throwing fireballs already. Somewhere behind them, someone was crying. Another person screamed for an ambulance that wasn't coming. Jowoung kept watching the system window. I know what I'm doing. The mage frowned, not convinced, interested. The expression was familiar. In the old forums, veteran players had jokingly called it info hunting. The moment someone realized another player knew something they didn't. Whatever. The mage shrugged. Good luck surviving. He walked away, but he looked back twice. Jowoung slowly released the breath he'd been holding. 30 days. 30 days changed everything. If the tutorial lasted that long. The entire balance of the game collapsed. Routes, boss timers, quest chains, resource management. Everything. Nothing he'd prepared for would happen when it was supposed to. A soft chime echoed inside his mind. Another window appeared. Unlike the others, this one was crimson. Global notice. The tutorial has been modified. The tutorial has been modified. Additional rules have been applied. Jowoung froze. Modified. That message had never existed. Not once. Another line appeared. Rule #1. Cities are no longer safe zones. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, the ground shook. Not a little. Violently. Car alarms erupted across the street. Windows shattered. People screamed again. Far beyond the intersection, near a shopping mall, the pavement bulged upward. Concrete split apart. A deafening roar rolled across the city. Something enormous forced its way out of the earth. It wasn't a goblin. It wasn't even close. The creature towered over the surrounding buildings. Its shadow swallowed half the street. Kim Jowoung's blood turned to ice. Impossible. That in the original game. That monster didn't appear until the 3rd month. He tightened his grip on the bow. For the first time since the world had changed, he knew absolutely nothing. Chapter 3. The roar rolled across the city. No one moved. The creature stood half-hidden behind a curtain of dust several blocks away, its outline barely visible through the collapsing buildings. Then the system chimed again. Emergency notice that a high-risk entity has entered the tutorial zone. Recommended action. Evade. People broke. Some ran. Others dropped to their knees. A woman clutched her child so tightly the little girl cried in pain. Someone shouted that the military would arrive soon. Someone else insisted it was all virtual reality. Kim Jowoung didn't listen. His eyes never left the distant silhouette. Too early. In the original game, monsters that size didn't appear until experienced players had reached at least level 30. No beginner could fight one. Not even together. A scream pulled his attention away. 3 goblins burst from another tear in space less than 50 meters away. The crowd scattered. One man slipped and fell. The goblins rushed him. Without thinking, Jowoung raised his bow. His first arrow struck the pavement, too low. His second buried itself in a goblin's eye. The monster collapsed instantly. Still compensating. His breathing steadied. His third shot hit. Then his fourth. The last goblin reached the fallen man. Jowoung sprinted. The training dagger flashed. The blade sank beneath the creature's jaw. Blood splashed across his sleeve. The goblin crumpled. Level up. Level 2. Warmth spread through his body. Not enough to erase the exhaustion. Just enough to notice. His muscles felt lighter. So levels really strengthen the body. Just like the game. At least that part hadn't changed. Footsteps approached. The mage from earlier stopped a few meters away. You killed 4. Jowoung wiped the blood from his dagger. 3. The first one was before I got here. The mage stared. That's not the important part. He glanced toward the giant monster still roaring in the distance. People are dying everywhere. He hesitated, then sighed. I don't want to die. Jowoung looked at him. Neither spoke for several seconds. Finally, named. Han Minsu. I'm Kim Jowoung. Minsu nodded. So, we're teaming up. Jowoung looked around. The streets were collapsing into panic. Individuals wouldn't survive long. Not for 30 days. For now. Before Minsu could answer, the system chimed once more. Hidden quest discovered. The first party. Condition. Form a party before the first hour ends. Reward. Unknown. Failure. Quest disappears forever. Jowoung's pupils contracted. Unknown. The reward had never been hidden before. His heartbeat quickened. Another change. Another thing that didn't exist in the original game. He slowly looked at Minsu. Then at the terrified survivors hiding behind abandoned cars. If this quest really was unique, then every second mattered. Chapter 4. The notification lingered in the air. Hidden quest discovered. The first party. Condition. Form a party before the first hour ends. Reward. Unknown. Failure. Quest disappears forever. Kim Jowoung stared at the final line. Unknown. That single word bothered him more than the giant monster roaring somewhere across the city. Nothing in the original game had hidden rewards during the tutorial. Everything had been documented years ago. Someone had changed the rules. We don't have much time. Han Minsu frowned. What? Jowoung looked around the intersection. People were beginning to calm down, which meant they were starting to think. That was dangerous. A middle-aged man stepped forward. You, his voice shook. You killed that monster. Several heads turned. Another woman spoke before Jowoung could answer. You know what's happening, don't you? The questions came all at once. Are there more monsters? Is the military coming? What should we do? Can you protect us? Jowoung remained silent. Then another voice cut through the crowd. If he knows something, that a young man wearing an expensive suit pointed directly at him. Then he should tell everyone. Murmurs spread immediately. Yeah, he's hiding information. People are dying. What gives him the right? Jowoung had expected this. In every survival game, information became power, and people hated watching someone else have it before anyone could move. The system chimed. Area event. Goblin hunting party. 20 goblins have entered this district. Eliminate them before they eliminate you. A heartbeat later, screams echoed from the next street. 1 goblin, then 3, then 10. Green figures poured out of glowing tears between abandoned cars. The crowd exploded into panic. The man in the suit ran first. He didn't make it 5 meters. A goblin tackled him from the side. The scream ended almost instantly. Silence. No one moved. Kim Jowoung drew an arrow. Listen carefully. His voice cut through the chaos. They're weak alone. They hunt in groups. If you run by yourself, you die. No one argued anymore. Fear had finally replaced denial. Jowoung looked at Han Minsu. We need 4 people. The hidden quest. Minsu nodded. Who do we take? Jowoung scanned the terrified crowd. Not the loudest, not the strongest, the ones who were still thinking. A woman in running clothes helping an injured stranger. A police officer keeping people behind abandoned cars instead of panicking. A university student gripping a broken metal pipe with shaking hands, but refusing to abandon his younger sister. Good. Fear was normal. Running wasn't. Jowoung took a deep breath. You four. Every head turned. If you want to survive, come with us. Far above the city, the crimson cracks in the sky widened, and for a fraction of a second, something looked back. Chapter 5. The goblins didn't charge, they spread out. Kim Jowoung's expression hardened. They're smarter. In the original game, tutorial goblins rushed at the nearest target without thinking. These ones were circling, watching, waiting. Another change, another rule that no longer applied. He counted quickly. 21. Han Minsu blinked. The system said 20. I know. A cold feeling settled in Jowoung's stomach. One was missing. That meant one had already disappeared. Or it had never entered through the same gate. Everyone stay close. Nobody argued. The police officer stepped beside Minsu, gripping his baton. The woman in running clothes helped the injured survivors behind an overturned bus. The university student stood in front of his little sister with a shaking metal pipe. Fear was everywhere, but no one ran. Not anymore. The first goblin attacked. It lunged toward the student. Left. The boy reacted instinctively. The claws missed his face by centimeters. An arrow buried itself in the goblin's neck. Not enough. The monster staggered. Minsu's firebolt slammed into its chest. The police officer finished it with one crushing swing. Party experience shared. Goblin eliminated. So party members share experience. Minsu grinned. That's actually useful. Jowoung nodded. It always was. Then he stopped. No, not always. He frowned. Experience sharing had required level 10 in the original game. Now it was active immediately. Another change. The words barely left his mouth before. A scream erupted behind them. Too close. Jowoung spun. The missing goblin. It hadn't disappeared. It had climbed. The creature dropped from the roof of a convenience store straight toward the little girl. No warning, no roar, just claws. Jowoung moved before he thought. He threw himself forward. The training dagger flashed. Steel met flesh. Pain exploded across his shoulder as one claw tore through his jacket. The goblin crashed into him. They hit the pavement together. The world became teeth, blood, and noise. The creature snapped inches from his face. His arms shook. He was losing. Move, Minsu shouted. A burst of flame struck the goblin's side. It hesitated. For 1 second. That was enough. Jowoung drove the dagger upward, straight through the weak point behind its jaw. The monster froze, then collapsed. Silence. He rolled onto his back, breathing hard. Warm blood soaked through his sleeve. His first real injury. A blue window appeared. Status update. HP. 81/100. Condition. Bleeding. Jowoung stared at the screen. Bleeding. That had never been a tutorial mechanic. Another window appeared almost immediately. Global notice. First party successfully formed. Bonus reward unlocked. Everyone looked up. Not just his group. The entire city. Somewhere, millions of other players had just learned one thing. Someone had already taken the lead. Kim Jowoung slowly closed his eyes. Great. Minsu looked at him. That's a good thing, isn't it? Jowoung gave a humorless laugh. It would have been. He looked toward the distant skyline. If nobody knew we existed. Far away, beyond the shattered buildings, something enormous opened its eyes, as if it had just noticed them. Chapter 6. The city remained silent, not peaceful, empty. The kind of silence that only came after thousands of people had screamed at once. Kim Jowoung pressed a strip of torn fabric against his shoulder. The bleeding had slowed. The pain hadn't. Han Minsu looked at him. So, we're famous now. Jowoung let out a tired breath. I was hoping we wouldn't be. The police officer frowned. What? Jowoung looked toward the floating notification that was slowly fading from the sky. Because if every player saw it, then the system saw it too. And if the system rewarded first place, it probably rewarded hunting first place as well. I don't know yet, he admitted. But I have a bad feeling. A soft chime echoed again. Everyone froze. Tutorial update. Safe zones have been established. Nearest safe zone, 1.8 kilometers. Relief spread across the surrounding survivors. A young woman burst into tears. We just have to get there. Someone laughed for the first time since the tutorial began. We're safe. Groups immediately began gathering their belongings. People pointed toward the glowing pillar of blue light rising above the distant buildings. The safe zone is that way. Let's go. Jowoung didn't move. No. Minsu looked at him. What do you mean no? In the game, safe zones were real. No monsters. No combat. No deaths. He stared at the blue pillar. But this isn't the game anymore. Silence. You think it's a trap? I think that he hesitated. I don't trust anything that suddenly becomes more generous. The crowd ignored him. Hundreds of survivors began walking toward the blue pillar. Some even smiled. Children stopped crying. For the first time since the tutorial began, people believed they had somewhere safe to go. Jowoung watched them leave. His instincts screamed at him. Something was wrong. He couldn't explain why, only that every change so far had made the tutorial harder, not easier. Another notification appeared, only for his party. Party quest. Reach the safe zone. Reward. Basic supply chest. Minsu's eyes widened. Seat. Even the system wants us to go. Jowoung frowned. Too convenient. Much too convenient. Then, the ground trembled. Not like before. Different. Rhythmic. Boom, boom, boom. Heavy footsteps. The police officer slowly turned. Tell me that's not. Jowoung already knew. He climbed onto the roof of an abandoned car. His blood ran cold. Far behind the long line of survivors, a massive silhouette walked between the buildings, nearly 6 meters tall, covered in cracked black armor, dragging a rusted executioner's axe behind it. Every step shattered the asphalt. A crimson name floated above its head. Executioner of the tutorial level? Jowoung's face went pale. No. Minsu swallowed. You know it. I shouldn't. The executioner wasn't supposed to exist. Not in the tutorial. Not anywhere before the late game. Which meant one thing. The system wasn't simply changing. It was escalating. The monster lifted its head. It looked toward the thousands of survivors heading for the safe zone. Then it smiled and began to run. Chapter 7. But the executioner ran. Not fast. Not at first. Each step was heavy enough to crack the road beneath its feet. Boom, boom, boom. Thousands of survivors turned toward the sound before they understood what it meant. And when someone finally screamed it's coming, the panic that followed tore through the crowd all at once. Then someone screamed, it's coming. Panic exploded. People shoved past each other, desperate to reach the glowing safe zone first. Children were separated from their parents in the rush. Bags were dropped and left behind. Some fell, and nobody stopped to help them up. Kim Jowoung watched the wave of terror roll through the street, and something in his chest went cold before his mind had caught up. No. He turned to Minsu. Minsu looked at him. What? The safe zone. He finally understood. It's not the destination. It's the bait. The executioner wasn't chasing random players. It was following the largest concentration of people in the district, and the safe zone had gathered them together, like prey. The giant monster raised its axe. When the axe came down on a parked bus, splitting it clean in half, the shockwave alone threw dozens of people to the pavement. Blood stained the street. The screaming became unbearable. Global announcement. The first regional event has begun. Event. The executioner's hunt. Objective. Survive. Regional event. Jowoung whispered. His memories offered nothing. This event had never existed. Kim. Minsu grabbed his arm. What do we do? Jowoung forced himself to breathe. Think. Panic kills. Knowledge saves. His eyes swept across the street, buildings, alleys, construction equipment, until they landed on a narrow subway entrance half buried under a fallen ad board. His eyes widened. The subway. Minsu blinked. What? The executioner is too big. It can't fight properly underground. The police officer understood immediately. So we use the tunnels. Jowoung nodded. We're not fighting. We're escaping. He climbed onto the hood of an abandoned taxi and shouted until his voice cracked, telling anyone who'd listened to forget the safe zone, that the monster wanted them together, that it would kill all of them if they stayed in a crowd. Everyone, if you can hear me, forget the safe zone. Some people looked. Most kept running. The monster wants you together. It'll kill all of you. A middle-aged man pointed at the blue pillar. You're lying. The system told us to go there. Another survivor shouted. He's trying to keep the safe zone for himself. The crowd split. Some believed him. Most didn't. Jowoung closed his eyes for a brief second. He had expected this. Trust was expensive. Time was not. The executioner reached the first group. Its axe fell. The street shook. And when the dust settled, there was nothing left except broken pavement and crimson stains. Silence. Then absolute terror. That was when the ones who had doubted Jowoung suddenly turned back. Too late. The monster was already among them. Move. Jowoung jumped off the taxi and ran, his party behind him. Behind them, dozens of frightened survivors followed. Not because they trusted him, because they had run out of better options. As Jowoung reached the stairs, another notification appeared. Hidden discovery. Underground transit network located. Bonus objective unlocked. Explore the unknown route. Reward. He stopped. Unknown route. Minsu nearly crashed into him. What now? Jowoung stared into the darkness below. In the original game, there had never been a subway dungeon. Never. A cold wind drifted up from the tunnel. It carried the smell of damp concrete. And something else, something alive. Jowoung tightened his grip on his bow. If the surface has changed, he looked into the darkness. Then I don't even want to imagine what's waiting underground. Behind them, the executioner's roar tore through the station entrance. Chapter 8. The station swallowed them whole, and the screams outside faded with every step down the cracked concrete stairs, not because they had escaped, but because something else lived down here. Kim Jowoung raised his bow. The emergency lights overhead flickered weakly, painting the abandoned platforms in flashes of crimson and white. Behind him, nearly 30 survivors poured into the station. Some collapsed from exhaustion. Others sobbed uncontrollably without trying to hide it. Nobody spoke. Nobody wanted to break the silence. A familiar chime echoed through the darkness. Area discovered. Abandoned line 7. Danger rating. Unknown. Jowoung stopped. Unknown. Again, he hated that word. Every underground area in the original game had a danger rating. There were maps, guides, strategies. This place didn't exist. Han Minsu stepped beside him. So, we're safe. Jowoung didn't answer. He crouched. The concrete floor was covered with muddy footprints. Not human. 3 toes. Small. Fresh. No. He stood slowly straightening himself. They're already here. A metallic scraping echoed through the tunnel. Clink. 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 The sound repeated, getting closer. A little boy started to whimper, and his mother clapped a hand over his mouth just as the darkness moved. Not one shadow, but dozens. Pairs of yellow eyes blinking open along the tracks, watching, waiting. One of the survivors whispered, "What is that?" Nobody answered. Then the darkness moved, not one shadow, dozens. Pairs of glowing yellow eyes opened inside the tunnel. Watching, waiting. Jowoung felt his pulse quicken. Everyone, keeping his voice level. Do not attack first. The survivors stared at him. What? He answered. If they're what I think they are, they only attack loud targets. Suddenly, the scraping stopped. Every yellow eye turned toward them. Nobody breathed. Seconds passed. Then, the eyes disappeared. The creatures retreated deeper into the tunnel. The entire station exhaled at once. Minsu blinked. How did you know that? Jowoung frowned. I didn't. Everyone froze. What? He looked into the darkness. In the original game, there was nothing down here. Another notification appeared, only for him. Hidden observation complete. New monster recorded. Name, Tunnel Stalker. Information, incomplete. Progress, 3%. His pupils contracted. Recorded? The system didn't know the monster either. A chill ran down his spine. This wasn't simply a modified tutorial anymore. The system itself was discovering things. A distant growl echoed from somewhere far below. It was deeper than the station. Much deeper. The walls vibrated. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Every tunnel stalker suddenly fled into the darkness. As if terrified of something even worse, Jowoung slowly lowered his bow. Run! Nobody questioned him. They ran. Far behind them, something enormous opened its eyes beneath the city, and for a brief moment, every light in the station went out. Chapter 9. Darkness. For several endless seconds, that was all anyone could see. The emergency lights had died. The tunnel was silent. Then, a scream echoed somewhere behind the group. It lasted barely 2 seconds. Then it stopped. Kim Jowoung's heart sank. Don't turn around, Jowoung said. Several survivors instinctively looked back. A woman gasped. One of the men who had entered the station with them was gone. There wasn't any blood, no body. Only the flashlight he'd been carrying, rolling slowly across the platform. "Where did he go?" someone whispered. Nobody answered, because nobody had seen him disappear. The lights flickered back to life. Only half of them. Enough to cast long shadows across the station. Jowoung slowly picked up the flashlight. Its lens was cracked. The batteries were still warm. He disappeared less than 10 seconds ago. Minsu swallowed. "You think something dragged him away?" Jowoung looked toward the tunnel. Note, if something that big had attacked, there would have been a struggle. The silence that followed was somehow worse than the scream had been. A soft notification appeared. Not blue, not crimson, white. Exploration progress. Hidden area, 2%. Jowoung frowned. Hidden area? The system had never tracked exploration before. It was acting less like a game, and more like it was mapping the place alongside the players. The police officer shone his flashlight across the platform. There. Everyone turned. A maintenance door stood slightly open. It hadn't been opened before. A cold breeze drifted through the gap. Above it, a rusted sign. Staff only. Minsu frowned. "Do we really want to go in there?" Jowoung stared at the doorway. Every instinct told him to avoid it, which was exactly why he couldn't. If this station didn't exist in the original game, then every hidden room could contain information. Or monsters, the officer muttered. Jowoung gave a dry smile. Probably both. He pushed the door open. The hinges groaned. Beyond it stretched a narrow maintenance corridor. Concrete walls, pipes overhead, water dripping steadily somewhere in the darkness. At the end of the corridor, another blue window floated in the air. Unlike the others, it looked old, faded, as though it had been waiting there for years. Developer Archive number 001. Access restricted. Requirement. Reach level 5. Jowoung stopped breathing. Developer Archive? His pulse quickened. There had never been developer archives in the original game. If these were real, they might explain why the tutorial had changed. A deep metallic groan echoed through the walls. The entire corridor trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Then, another system message appeared before every member of the party. "Warning, a predator has entered this area. Escape is recommended." This time, even Jowoung didn't hesitate. "Run." No one asked why. They turned and sprinted back toward the platform. Behind them, something heavy scraped against the concrete. Slowly, patiently, as though it already knew. They had nowhere left to run. Chapter 10. They ran. The corridor echoed with pounding footsteps and ragged breathing. No one dared look back. The sound behind them never became faster. It didn't need to. It simply followed. Slow, heavy, certain, as if it already knew they couldn't escape forever. The party burst back onto the subway platform. The emergency lights flickered violently. Then, every exit slammed shut. Steel doors crashed down over the stairway leading back to the surface. The station shook. A blue notification appeared before every player. Area lockdown. Leaving the area is temporarily impossible. Condition for release. Defeat the area guardian or survive until lockdown ends. Time remaining. 29 minutes and 59 seconds. You've got to be kidding. Han Minsu stared at the countdown. We're trapped. No one argued. Everyone had realized the same thing. The subway wasn't a hiding place. It was a dungeon. A terrified survivor ran toward the sealed exit anyway. He slammed both fists against the steel barrier. Open. Open. Nothing happened. Then, a claw burst through his chest. The hand withdrew just as quickly. The man collapsed without a sound. Silence filled the station. The thing behind the wall had reached them. Kim Jowoung stepped back instinctively. Everyone away from the doors. The survivors obeyed immediately. Fear had replaced doubt. No one questioned his orders anymore. Another notification appeared. Party objective updated. Reach level 5 recommended before facing the area guardian. Jowoung narrowed his eyes. Recommended. Not required. Which meant someone believed it could be defeated before level 5. Someone or something. The lights dimmed again. This time they didn't return. Only the faint glow of system windows illuminated the platform. Then, yellow eyes opened all along the opposite railway. 1 pair, 5, 10, 20, dozens. Tunnel stalkers. They weren't attacking. They were watching, waiting. as if they feared whatever was approaching even more than the players did. A deep growl rolled through the tunnel. Every tunnel stalker immediately fled into the darkness. Not one remained. Kim Jowoung's heartbeat quickened. Get ready. Minsu raised his staff. The police officer tightened his grip on his baton. The university student stood in front of his little sister despite his trembling legs. No one ran. There was nowhere left to run. A single figure stepped out of the tunnel. Human. At least, it had once been. It wore the tattered uniform of a subway maintenance worker. Its skin had turned gray. Its eyes glowed pale blue. Rusted chains wrapped around both arms. Above its head floated a crimson name. Station Keeper. Level 5. Jowoung froze. That's impossible. Minsu looked at him. You know this one too. Jowoung slowly shook his head. Note. I've never seen it before. The creature tilted its head. Then, for the first time, it spoke, in a cracked, almost human voice. Leave. The survivors stared in disbelief. Monsters didn't talk. Before that, it took one slow step forward. He wakes up. Silence fell across the station. Jowoung felt a chill crawl down his spine. The station keeper lifted one trembling hand and pointed into the darkness beyond the tracks. The entire subway shook. Something answered from far below. Not a roar, a heartbeat. One massive heartbeat. Boom. The station keeper lowered its head. Too late. Chapter 11. But the heartbeat echoed again. Boom. The entire station trembled. Dust drifted from the ceiling as cracks spread across the concrete walls. Nobody spoke. Nobody breathed. The station keeper stood perfectly still, its pale blue eyes fixed on Kim Jowoung. You shouldn't have come here. Its voice sounded strained, as though every word caused it pain. Han Minsu raised his staff. It can talk. The creature slowly nodded. Not for much longer. Kim frowned. In every monster guide he'd ever read, no tutorial monster had ever spoken. He lowered his bow slightly. Who are you? The keeper was silent for several seconds. Then, player. The word hit Jowoung like a punch. What? The creature clutched its own head. Fragments of memory seemed to flicker across its face before vanishing. A player. A horrified silence spread through the party. The little girl hiding behind her brother whispered, Can players become monsters? No one answered, because no one wanted to know. A notification suddenly appeared. Hidden quest updated. Speak with the station keeper. Reward. Unknown. Jowoung's eyes narrowed. The system wanted this conversation. The keeper took another slow step. Its chains rattled softly. I remember 30 days. The keeper nodded weakly. Not 7. His heartbeat quickened. So the tutorial was always 30 days. The creature looked confused, then slowly shook its head. Note. It changed, exactly as he'd feared. What woke up beneath the station? The keeper's glowing eyes shifted toward the darkness beyond the tracks. Its expression twisted into terror. A mistake. Silence. A mistake. The creature's body convulsed violently. The chains tightened around its arms. Should never have existed. Suddenly, a crimson notification tore across the station. Warning. Unauthorized information detected. The keeper screamed. Black cracks spread across its body like shattered glass. No. It grabbed its own throat. They're listening. Jowoung's blood turned cold. The keeper looked directly into his eyes. For the first time, its expression was completely human. If you reach, it struggled to finish the sentence. Level 50. Its body began breaking apart into black ash. Don't trust. The final word never came. The creature exploded into countless black fragments that dissolved into the air. Silence. Everyone stared at the empty spot where it had been standing. Minsu swallowed. What just happened? Jowoung couldn't answer, because another notification had already appeared. Hidden quest complete. The last words. Reward obtained. Developer's fragment ×1. A tiny crystal shard materialized in Jowoung's hand. It pulsed with a faint blue light. Then another message appeared. One only he could see. Corrupted data detected. Developer archive synchronization, 1%. Jowoung stared at the words. Developer, again. The archives, the fragment, the station keeper. They were connected. Before he could think further, the massive heartbeat echoed once more. Boom. This time, it was much closer. The subway tracks bent upward. Concrete shattered. Something enormous was rising from beneath the station. Jowoung slowly gripped his bow. Everyone. His voice was barely above a whisper. Run. The floor exploded. Chapter 12. The floor exploded. Concrete and steel erupted into the air as something massive burst through the subway tracks. The shockwave hurled Kim Jowoung across the platform. His back slammed into a concrete pillar. Pain shot through his ribs. His HP dropped instantly. HP 67/100. He barely had time to stand. The entire station went silent. Even the dust seemed afraid to move. Then, a colossal hand gripped the broken platform. Another. A gigantic figure slowly pulled itself from the darkness below. It was easily 15 meters tall. Its body looked as though it had been carved from black stone and fused with rusted steel. Veins of crimson light pulsed beneath its cracked armor like molten lava. Its face had no eyes, only an enormous vertical mouth stretching from forehead to chest. It opened. A deafening roar shook the underground station. Everyone covered their ears. A crimson window appeared before every player. Area boss appeared. The devourer beneath the city. Level. Recommended players. Unknown. Han Minsu stared at the message. Unknown. Jowoung's face lost all color. There had never been an unknown recommendation. Never. The devourer took one step. The platform collapsed beneath its weight. Chunks of concrete rained into the abyss below. A survivor screamed and ran. The monster didn't chase him. Instead, its chest split open. Dozens of black tendrils shot forward. They wrapped around the fleeing man. He disappeared inside the creature before anyone could react. No blood, no scream. Only silence. Then, the monster's body glowed slightly brighter. It had grown. Jowoung's heart pounded. It gets stronger by absorbing players. Minsu's voice trembled. So how do we kill it? Jowoung answered without taking his eyes off the monster. We don't. The system chimed again. Emergency quest. Escape the underground station. Time remaining. 09:59. Reward. Survival. Failure. Death. 9 minutes. The police officer gritted his teeth. There has to be another exit. Jowoung scanned the station. Collapsed stairs. Destroyed platforms. Blocked maintenance corridors. Then, he saw it. At the opposite end of the station, half buried beneath fallen concrete, an old maintenance tunnel. Unlike everything else, it wasn't on any subway map. His eyes widened. It wasn't there before. Minsu looked where he was pointing. You think it leads outside? I don't know. But that he remembered the notification. Explore the unknown route. His pulse quickened. The system already tried to send us there. The devourer roared again. This time, the lights throughout the station shattered. Darkness swallowed everything. Only the glowing system windows remained. Jowoung drew a slow breath. He looked at his companions, Han Minsu, the police officer, the university student, his little sister, the runner. They were exhausted, terrified, but every one of them was still standing. We move together. No heroes. No one gets left behind. For the first time since the world had changed, no one questioned him. As they sprinted toward the hidden tunnel, another notification appeared. Only before Kim Jowoung. Hidden route confirmed. Developer path found. Synchronization 2%. His footsteps slowed for only a fraction of a second. Developer path. The words echoed in his mind. Whatever lay beyond that tunnel. It wasn't meant for ordinary players. Behind them, the devourer smiled and began crawling after them on all fours. Chapter 13. The maintenance tunnel slammed shut behind them. The roar of the devourer became muffled. Then, silence. Not normal silence. The air itself felt different. Kim Jowoung slowed to a stop. Something's wrong. Han Minsu looked around nervously. I don't hear any monsters. Exactly. The tunnel stretched ahead in perfect darkness. No graffiti. No broken pipes. No dust. The concrete walls looked new, as though no one had ever walked here. A blue notification appeared. Hidden area discovered. Developer maintenance route. First discovery bonus awarded. Plus 5 free attribute points. Everyone except Jowoung looked confused. Did you guys get that? The police officer shook his head. No. The others did the same. Only Jowoung had seen it. His heartbeat quickened. The system was treating him differently. He silently opened his status. Kim Jowoung. Level 3. Class. Ranger.HP. 67/100. Free attribute points. 8.8 points. In the original game, most players dumped everything into dexterity. It was the obvious choice, which meant it was usually the wrong one. He remembered something buried deep inside an old developer Q&A from years ago. Players who survive the tutorial are rarely the strongest. They're the ones who stay alive long enough to become strong. Without hesitation, he invested. +4 vitality, +2 dexterity, +2 perception. A pleasant warmth spread through his body. His injured shoulder hurt a little less. The tunnel suddenly lit up, not with electricity, with floating blue symbols carved into the walls, ancient letters. None of them recognized the language. Yet, Jowoung somehow understood. Emergency maintenance access. Administrator route. He froze. Administrator. The original game had never mentioned administrators, only developers. Minsu pointed ahead. There's a door. At the end of the tunnel stood an enormous steel gate. Unlike everything else, it wasn't damaged. It looked brand new. In its center floated a glowing handprint. No handle, no lock. Just the handprint. The moment Jowoung stepped closer, the wall chimed. Identity scan. Player detected. Synchronization, 2%. Access denied. Nothing happened. Jowoung frowned. Only 2%. Not enough? Then, the crystal shard in his pocket began glowing. The developer's fragment. Without thinking, he pulled it out. The moment it touched the glowing handprint, the entire gate shook. Ancient mechanisms awakened. Deep inside the walls, massive gears began turning. The steel doors slowly opened. Cold air rushed toward them. Beyond the gate wasn't another tunnel. It was a gigantic underground chamber. Rows upon rows of floating blue screens filled the darkness. Thousands of them. Some were broken, some flickered. Some still displayed information, like an abandoned control room. No, a server room. For the tutorial itself, Han Minsu whispered, "What is this place?" Jowoung couldn't answer, because one of the floating screens suddenly activated. Static covered the display. Then a face appeared. A young woman wearing a white lab coat. She looked directly at him. Not through him, at him. If you're seeing this, the recording crackled. Then the tutorial has already failed. Everyone stood frozen. The woman continued. "My name is..." The audio distorted violently. "Lead developer." Static swallowed the rest. Then, the entire chamber went dark. A single crimson message appeared above them. "Unauthorized access detected. Administrator has been notified." Kim Jowoung's blood ran cold. "Run!" Far above them, something answered. A deep metallic voice echoed through the chamber. "Intruder located." Chapter 14. Intruder located. The metallic voice echoed through the underground chamber. Every blue screen went dark. Then, one by one, they turned crimson. A countdown appeared on every display. 00:30. Han Minsu's face went pale. "What's happening?" Kim Jowoung didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the words. He had spent 2,000 hours inside the game. He had never seen anything like this. The countdown reached 0:25. The chamber trembled. Heavy metal doors slammed shut behind them. The only exit disappeared. A new notification appeared. Emergency event. Archive purge initiated. Time remaining. 00:24. Objective. Preserve 1 archive. Preserve? Jowoung frowned. What does that even mean? Rows of floating screens suddenly began shattering, one after another. Data dissolved into glowing particles before vanishing forever. Videos, maps, quest logs, monster records. Entire sections of information deleted, as if someone wanted to erase history. The woman in the white lab coat appeared again on a nearby screen. This time the recording lasted longer. "If you're watching this, then we've already lost." Static crawled across her face. The tutorial wasn't designed to kill humanity. It was designed to. The recording froze, then vanished. 00:17. Another screen exploded into light. Then another. The chamber was deleting itself. Minsu pointed deeper into the room. There, at the center of the chamber floated a single crystal pillar. Unlike the screens, it wasn't disappearing. Above it floated a golden notification. Core archive. Remaining data integrity. 11%. Jowoung's heartbeat quickened. That's it. Not the real archive. The party sprinted across the chamber halfway there. Black shadows poured from the ceiling. Not goblins, not monsters. Humanoid figures made entirely of static. Their bodies flickered like corrupted video. No faces, only glowing red eyes. Archive Guardians, level 6. They're protecting it. The first Guardian lunged. Jowoung fired instinctively. The arrow passed straight through. What? The creature wasn't physical. Minsu launched a firebolt. It passed through as well. The Guardian smiled. The police officer swung his baton. Nothing. The weapon sliced through empty air. The creature grabbed his arm. A blue message flashed. Memory corruption, 3%. The officer stumbled backward. Who? But he blinked several times. Who are you people? Jowoung's eyes widened. They're attacking memories. Another Guardian reached for the university student before it could touch him. The crystal fragment inside Jowoung's pocket erupted with blue light. Every Guardian froze. For exactly 3 seconds, Jowoung didn't hesitate. Run to the archive. They reached the crystal pillar. The glowing fragment floated out of Jowoung's hand on its own. Slowly, it merged with the pillar. The entire chamber shook violently. Developer archive synchronization 0.2% 5%. Every remaining screen lit up simultaneously. A single sentence appeared across thousands of displays. The administrators are not the creators. Silence. Jowoung stared at the words. If the administrators weren't the ones who created the game, then who did? Before anyone could speak, the metallic voice returned. This time, it sounded angry. Synchronization detected. Executing elimination protocol. A deafening alarm filled the chamber, and somewhere beyond the sealed doors, something much stronger than the station keeper began walking toward them. Chapter 15. Boom. Another impact shook the chamber. The sealed metal doors bent inward. Not from an explosion, from a knock. Something on the other side was trying to come in. The alarm continued blaring. Elimination protocol active. Target, player Kim Jowoung. The color drained from Minsu's face. Did that just say your name? Jowoung nodded slowly. It did. The system knew who he was. Boom. The doors buckled again. A long crack spread across the reinforced steel. Whatever was outside wasn't rushing. It was taking its time, as though escape had never been an option. The crystal pillar flashed. A new notification appeared. Emergency synchronization available. Accept temporary developer authority. Duration, 60 seconds. Warning, irreversible detection. Jowoung froze. Developer authority. There was no such mechanic in the game. He stared at the countdown. 00:59. Minsu noticed his expression. What is it? Nothing good. Another violent impact. The first door flew off its hinges. Smoke and dust filled the corridor beyond. A silhouette slowly stepped inside. Human, at first glance. Tall. Perfectly dressed in a black suit. White gloves. Silver hair. No weapon. No armor. No visible level. Above its head floated only one title. Administrator. The figure calmly adjusted one of its gloves. Its golden eyes settled on Kim Jowoung. There you are. Its voice was calm, polite, almost friendly, which somehow made it even more terrifying. Jowoung instinctively stepped in front of the others. The administrator tilted its head. You possess developer data. Return it. I may allow the others to live. Silence. Minsu whispered. Can we trust it? No. The administrator sighed. I expected that answer. It raised one finger, without warning. The police officer was thrown across the room. No spell, no movement, just invisible force. He crashed into a wall, coughing blood. Everyone froze. Jowoung hadn't even seen the attack. The administrator looked disappointed. You are remarkably weak. And yet, its gaze lingered on the crystal shard floating beside Jowoung. You continue to interfere. A blue window appeared before Jowoung alone. Accept temporary developer authority. 00:18. His mind raced. If he accepted, the administrator would never stop hunting him. If he refused, they would all die here. He closed his eyes. Sorry. He wasn't apologizing to the administrator. He was apologizing to his team. His finger pressed yes. The crystal exploded with blue light. Every screen in the chamber activated. Countless streams of code surrounded Jowoung. His status window changed. Temporary authority granted. Synchronization, 5%. Authority level, prototype. Duration remaining, 60 seconds. The administrator's calm expression disappeared for the first time. Impossible. Jowoung looked up. Hundreds of blue command windows floated around him. He didn't know how, but somehow, he could understand every one of them. And instinctively, he reached toward the nearest command. The blue windows surrounded Kim Jowoung like a storm. Lines of glowing code flowed through the air. He couldn't read the language, yet somehow, he understood every command. Not with his eyes, with instinct. The administrator took a single step forward. The temperature in the chamber dropped instantly. Cancel the synchronization. Jowoung remained silent. His eyes scanned the floating commands. Thousands of them. Most were locked. Some were corrupted. Only a handful were available. Temporary authority. Available commands. Scan target. Open system lock. Emergency override. Locked. Spawn menu. Locked. Player recovery. Locked. Time remaining. 00:54. His heart raced. He had less than a minute. The administrator disappeared. No warning. One moment it stood 20 meters away. The next, but it was directly in front of him. A white-gloved hand reached toward his chest. Too fast. Far too fast. Jowoung didn't even have time to raise his dagger. Clang. A translucent blue barrier appeared between them. The administrator's hand stopped against it. A notification flashed. Automatic defensive function activated. The barrier cracked immediately. It would only hold for seconds. Kim. Han Minsu hurled a firebolt. The spell exploded harmlessly against the administrator's back. Without even turning around, the administrator spoke. Irrelevant. An invisible force slammed Minsu into a nearby console. The screen shattered. His HP dropped instantly. HP 31/100. Jowoung clenched his fists. This thing isn't a boss. It wasn't following boss mechanics. It wasn't using skills. It wasn't fighting. It was simply deleting obstacles. His eyes darted back to the command windows. Scan target. He selected it. Immediately, a blue beam swept over the administrator. For the first time, information appeared. Administrator #07. Status. Stable. Authority rank. B. Combat capability. Restricted. Restrictions active inside tutorial. Restricted. Jowoung's eyes widened. If you're restricted, then you're weaker than you're pretending. For the first time, the administrator smiled. Very observant, but not observant enough. The blue barrier shattered. The administrator stepped through it. Time remaining, 0.00 to 32. Jowoung selected another command. Open system log. Thousands of records flooded his vision. Most were incomprehensible. Then, one line caught his attention. System modification. Tutorial duration 0.7 days, 30 days. Modified by unknown. His breathing stopped. Not the administrators. Someone else had changed the tutorial. The administrator's calm expression vanished. Close that log. Jowoung looked up. So it wasn't you. Silence. Who changed the tutorial? The administrator didn't answer. Instead, it looked genuinely disturbed, as though even speaking about that person was forbidden. A crimson warning suddenly covered every screen. Critical alert. Higher authority detected. Synchronization canceled in 10, 9. The administrator slowly stepped backward. For the first time, it looked upward, not at the ceiling, beyond it. It noticed. Jowoung frowned. Who? The administrator whispered only 3 words. The original developer. Every screen in the chamber exploded into blinding white light. White. Nothing but white. Kim Jowoung couldn't feel the ground beneath his feet. He couldn't hear his own breathing. The chamber, the administrator, his party. Everything had vanished. Where am I? No answer. Then, footsteps. Soft, steady. A figure emerged from the endless white. Not a monster. Not an administrator. A young man, perhaps in his late 20s, wearing an ordinary gray hoodie and jeans. He looked completely normal. Too normal. The man smiled faintly. So, someone finally made it here. Jowoung instinctively reached for his dagger. It wasn't there. Who are you? The stranger tilted his head. I've had many names. But I suppose it. Original developer is the one you'd recognize. Jowoung froze. No, you're dead. The man chuckled. I should be. Silence stretched between them. The developer walked past Jowoung, hands in his pockets. When I created the tutorial, it wasn't a game. Jowoung frowned. What? It was a simulation. A way to teach civilizations how to survive what comes after. What comes after? The smile disappeared from the developer's face. Extinction. A chill ran down Jowoung's spine. The developer continued walking. The administrators believed survival required perfect order. I believed survival required freedom. We disagreed. They took control. They took everything. The developer stopped, including my name. Blue windows appeared around them. Not system notifications. Memories. Millions of players. Millions of worlds. Some succeeded. Most disappeared. One by one. Jowoung stared in horror. How many worlds? The developer looked away. I stopped counting. Another image appeared. Earth. Its oceans. Its cities. Its people. They found you. He nodded. They always do. Jowoung stepped forward. Wait. I still have questions. The developer smiled sadly. So do I. The chains pulled him upward. His body began dissolving into blue particles. Before disappearing completely, he tossed something toward Jowoung, a small silver key. It landed gently in his hand. Hidden item obtained. The developer's master key. Classification, unknown. The developer's voice echoed one last time. If you ever meet an administrator again, don't ask who changed the tutorial. Jowoung frowned. Why? The developer closed his eyes. Ask who they're afraid of. The white world shattered like glass. Jowoung opened his eyes. He was back inside the archive chamber. Only a second had passed. Han Minsu was shouting his name. The administrator stood exactly where it had been. But now, its calm expression had vanished completely. Its golden eyes were locked on the silver key in Jowoung's hand. For the very first time, the administrator looked afraid. The administrator stared at the silver key. Its golden eyes widened. Impossible. For the first time since they had met, its voice wasn't calm. It was shaken. Jowoung tightened his grip around the key. You know what this is? The administrator didn't answer. Instead, it took a slow step backward, as if the tiny key frightened it more than any weapon. The temporary developer authority reached its limit. Temporary authority expired. Temporary authority expired. All the blue command windows disappeared. The protective barrier faded. The chamber became silent once more. Only the silver key continued to glow faintly. Han Minsu hurried to Jowoung's side. What happened? I'll explain later. You look like you've seen a ghost. Maybe I did. The administrator finally spoke again. Return the master key. Note, you do not understand what you're carrying. Then explain it. Silence. After several long seconds, I cannot. Jowoung narrowed his eyes. You mean, or you're not allowed to? The administrator's jaw tightened. That was answer enough. Suddenly, a soft chime echoed. Not from the system. From the key itself. It floated gently into the air. A thin beam of silver light shot toward one of the damaged terminals. The old console flickered back to life. A file opened automatically. Project, Earth, status, active. Current survival probability, 3.8%. Nobody spoke. 3.8%. That was humanity's chance of surviving. Another line appeared. Reason for failure prediction. Internal conflict. Resource collapse. Unknown external variable. Han Minsu swallowed. So, the monsters aren't the biggest problem. Jowoung slowly shook his head. Apparently not. Without warning, every monitor in the chamber displayed the same sentence. The greatest threat to every civilization has always been itself. The message remained for only a second, then vanished. The administrator lowered its head. You were never supposed to see that. Who decides what we're allowed to see? No answer. The silver key suddenly became burning hot. Another hidden compartment opened beneath the console. Inside rested a small black cube, no larger than a fist. Unlike the key, it radiated darkness. A notification appeared. Hidden item discovered. Memory cube. Status. Sealed. Unlock requirement. Level 10. Jowoung carefully picked it up the moment he touched it. A flood of images flashed through his mind. Cities burning. Entire planets collapsing. Players fighting monsters. Then fighting each other. Finally, a shadow sitting on a throne surrounded by countless broken worlds. Before he could see its face, the vision ended. Jowoung stumbled backward. The administrator watched him carefully. You saw it. Who was that? The administrator closed its eyes. Someone neither you nor I are ready to face. A violent explosion rocked the chamber. The ceiling cracked open. Chunks of concrete crashed onto the floor. The devourer's roar echoed from somewhere above. It had found the archive. Han Minsu looked toward the collapsing ceiling. We have to go. Jowoung nodded. But before leaving, he looked back at the administrator. You could have killed us. You didn't. The administrator remained silent. Then, almost too quietly to hear, it replied. Not every order deserves to be obeyed. Before Jowoung could ask another question, the administrator dissolved into golden particles. Gone. The archive began collapsing around them. A new system notification appeared. Main objective updated. Escape the developer archive. New objective unlocked. Reach level 10. Jowoung slipped the silver key and the memory cube into his inventory. He took one last look at the dying archive. Whatever answers had once existed here, most of them were already gone. Let's move. The group sprinted toward the emergency tunnel as the entire underground facility began to collapse behind them. Chapter 19. The archive collapsed behind them. Steel beams crashed into the tunnel. Concrete dust swallowed the emergency exit. Kim Jowoung didn't stop running. Neither did anyone else. The Devourer's roar echoed through the underground like thunder chasing them toward the surface. Then, a blinding light. Fresh air hit his face. They stumbled out of a maintenance hatch into the middle of Seoul. Jowoung froze. What? This wasn't the city they'd entered. Buildings leaned at impossible angles. Entire streets had split open. Blue crystal formations erupted through the asphalt like giant trees. Cars lay abandoned where they had crashed hours earlier. But the strangest thing, the sky. The crimson cracks had spread across the heavens until they resembled a shattered mirror. A notification appeared before every player. Day 1 complete. Survivors remaining. 7,983 for 41. Silence. More than 400,000 people gone. In one day, the little girl buried her face in her brother's jacket. That's impossible. Nobody corrected her. Han Minsu slowly looked around. Where's the safe zone? Jowoung followed his gaze. The blue pillar had vanished. Only scorched ruins remained where it had once stood. No walls, no shelter, no survivors, nothing. His worst fear had been right. There had never been a safe zone. The system chimed again. Tutorial update. Day 2 begins. New monsters have spawned. Good luck, players. The words disappeared. Almost immediately, a scream echoed from a nearby office building. Then another. Something moved behind the shattered glass on the 15th floor, too large to be human. Jowoung reached for his bow. We're leaving. Nobody argued. As they crossed an empty intersection, the silver key vibrated inside his inventory. A thin beam of light pointed toward the east, like a compass. Minsu frowned. Is that normal? Note. It wants us to go somewhere. Before they could move, a voice echoed across the city. Not from the system, not from a monster. A human voice, broadcast through the sky itself. Attention, survivors. Everyone stopped. The voice continued. My name is Lee Seo-jun. If you can hear this, I've established a safe settlement inside the National Museum. We have food, water, defenses. Anyone who wants to survive, come before sunset. The broadcast ended. Hope spread instantly, across rooftops, inside abandoned buses, from broken storefronts. People began emerging from hiding. Some cried, some laughed. Others immediately started running toward the museum. Han Minsu smiled. Maybe this time, it really is safe. Jowoung didn't answer. His eyes remained fixed on the sky, because the broadcast had never existed in the original game. And after everything he'd seen, he no longer believed in coincidences. Far away, on the roof of a skyscraper, a lone figure watched the survivors through a sniper's scope. The crosshairs settled briefly on Kim Jowoung. Then the stranger smiled. Found you. The sniper lowered his rifle. So you're alive. A faint smile crossed his face. Then he disappeared from the rooftop. Kim Jowoung never saw him. His attention remained on the beam of light projected by the silver key. It pointed east, not toward the National Museum. Away from it, Han Minsu noticed immediately. Your key wants us to go somewhere else. It does. But everyone else is heading to the museum. Jowoung watched thousands of survivors pouring into the streets. Entire families, all moving toward the same destination. Hope had become contagious. That made him nervous. Do you think it's another trap? Minsu asked quietly. Jowoung hesitated. I don't know. And that's exactly what scares me. The little girl tugged on her brother's sleeve. Can we trust that man? No one answered, because none of them knew. An hour later, the National Museum came into view. It was surrounded by makeshift barricades. Buses blocked the roads. Burning barrels illuminated the entrance. Armed survivors stood watch from the roof. Compared to the ruined city, it looked almost normal. A tall man wearing tactical gear walked out through the front gate, around 30 years old, calm eyes, confident posture. He raised both hands to show he wasn't holding a weapon. "I'm Lee Seo-jun." His voice matched the broadcast perfectly. "I'm glad you made it." The surrounding survivors relaxed instantly. Some even applauded. Others cried with relief. Finally, someone competent had appeared. Lee Seo-jun's gaze slowly swept across the crowd. Then it stopped on Kim Jowoung. For just a fraction of a second, something changed in his expression. Recognition. It disappeared almost instantly, too quickly for anyone else to notice. Anyone except Jowoung. "You." Lee smiled warmly. "You're the one who formed the first party." Several people gasped. Whispers spread through the crowd. "It's him. The global notice. He survived." Jowoung felt dozens of eyes land on him. Exactly what he'd wanted to avoid. Lee walked closer. "I'd like to thank you. You gave everyone hope." Jowoung remained expressionless. "How did you know it was me?" Lee blinked, then laughed softly. "Just a guess. A lie. A very good one, but still a lie." Before Jowoung could respond, another notification appeared before every player. Settlement discovered. First human settlement. Museum shelter. Protection level. C. For the first time, the system recognized a place built by players. The crowd erupted into cheers. People rushed through the gates. Some collapsed from exhaustion. Others embraced complete strangers. After nearly 2 days, they finally believed they had survived. Jowoung didn't move. Instead, he looked at the silver key. It had changed direction again. Now, it pointed directly beneath the museum. His heartbeat slowed. Underground. Again, Lee Seo-jun noticed where he was looking. For the first time, his smile faded. "Interesting." He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only Jowoung could hear. "You can see it too." Jowoung's eyes narrowed. "See what?" "The thing beneath us." Silence. Lee glanced toward the museum, then back at Jowoung. "Don't tell anyone." His calm expression returned immediately. He turned back toward the crowd. "Everyone, food is being distributed inside. Medical supplies are available on the second floor." The survivors cheered once more. But Kim Jowoung no longer heard them, because one question kept echoing in his mind. How did Lee Seo-jun know about the thing beneath the museum? And deep underground, far below the shelter, something ancient opened a single glowing eye. Chapter 21. Night fell over Seoul. For the first time since the tutorial began, people slept. Some curled up on blankets in the museum halls. Others stood guard along the barricades. Children laughed quietly over bowls of instant noodles. It almost felt normal. Kim Jowoung couldn't sleep. The silver key had stopped glowing, but every few seconds, it vibrated, as if reminding him that something waited below. Han Minsu walked over, carrying 2 bottles of water. "You've been staring at the floor for an hour." Jowoung accepted one. "There's something underneath us." Minsu sighed. "I was hoping you'd say it was just stress." A quiet voice interrupted them. "It isn't." Lee Seo-jun stood in the doorway. He looked exhausted, but his eyes were alert. "I know why you're awake." Jowoung stood immediately. "You've been down there." Lee didn't answer. Instead, he looked around to make sure no one was listening. "Come with me." The 3 of them slipped into a staff-only corridor, down a flight of stairs, then another. The lights became dimmer, the air colder. Eventually, they reached a massive steel door. Unlike everything else in the museum, it looked brand new. No rust, no dust, as if it had appeared overnight. Lee placed his hand against the door. It didn't open. "I've tried everything. Explosives, fired, even system skills. Nothing works." Jowoung stepped closer. The silver key began shining brightly. A notification appeared. "Hidden structure detected. Developer Vault Alpha 01. Access requirement. Developer's master key." Han Minsu stared at the screen. "Only you can open it." Jowoung slowly pulled the silver key from his inventory. The moment it approached the lock, the entire museum shook. A deep mechanical voice echoed behind the door. "Identity confirmed." "Welcome back." A long pause followed. Then, "Successor." Jowoung's blood ran cold. "I never accepted that title." The door didn't care. Massive gears began turning. Ancient locks disengaged one after another. With a deafening rumble, the vault slowly opened. Cold blue light spilled into the hallway. Inside was not a treasure room, nor a laboratory. It looked like a control center. Hundreds of floating holographic screens hovered above silent consoles. In the middle of the room stood a single black pedestal. Resting upon it, a crystal no larger than a human heart. It pulsed gently, like it was alive. The moment Jowoung stepped inside, every screen activated. "Welcome, developer candidate." The words hung in the air, then changed. "Warning, unauthorized administrator approaching. Distance, 0.2.3 kilometers. Lee Seojin's face lost all color. Already? Jowoung frowned. "What do you mean already?" Lee looked at him. His voice was barely a whisper. "They're not coming for the vault. They're coming for you." As if answering his words, the entire museum trembled. Outside, a golden pillar of light descended from the sky. Someone had arrived. The golden pillar pierced the night sky. Every survivor inside the museum saw it. The conversation stopped. The laughter died. Even the monsters outside fell strangely silent, as if the world itself were holding its breath. Kim Jowoung stepped out of the vault. The silver key was burning in his hand. Han Minsu followed close behind. "What now?" Jowoung didn't answer. He already knew. Whatever had arrived was stronger than Administrator number 07. Outside the museum, the golden light slowly faded. A lone figure stood in the middle of the street. Long white coat, black gloves, golden eyes. Unlike the previous administrator, this one carried a weapon, a long spear of polished black metal. Above its head floated a single title. Administrator #01. No level, no HP. Nothing else. The guards on the barricades raised their weapons. "Identify yourself." The administrator smiled politely. "I am looking for one player." "Hand him over. No one else has to die." No one moved. The silence lasted only a second. Then, a survivor fired his crossbow. The bolt never reached its target. It dissolved into golden particles halfway through the air. Administrator number 01 sighed. "I warned you." He gently tapped the butt of his spear against the asphalt. The shockwave flattened every barricade. Wood shattered. Concrete cracked. Dozens of survivors were thrown backward without the spear ever touching them. Inside the museum, panic erupted. "They're inside. Run! Get the children!" Lee Seojin shouted orders, trying to restore order, but fear spread faster than words. Administrator number 01 calmly walked through the destroyed entrance. His footsteps echoed through the museum halls. He wasn't searching randomly. He knew exactly where to go. Straight toward the underground vault. Straight toward Kim Jowoung. Han Minsu swallowed. "He knows." Jowoung nodded. "He always did." A blue notification appeared. Emergency World Event. An administrator has entered the tutorial. Survival probability updated, 2.1%. The number hit Jowoung harder than any attack, 2%. Humanity's chances had nearly been cut in half by the arrival of a single being. The museum lights suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed the hall. Only the golden glow from Administrator number 01 illuminated the corridor. His voice echoed calmly. "Kim Jowoung, you've caused enough problems. Come with me. I have no intention of asking twice." Jowoung slowly drew his bow. His hands were steady. Not because he believed he could win, because he knew running wouldn't matter. The administrator stopped walking. His gaze shifted to the silver key, then to the black crystal inside the vault. For the first time, his expression changed. Not anger, not surprise, recognition. "So, the vault chose you." Without warning, every screen inside the vault flashed red. Emergency protocol activated. Developer candidate under threat. Releasing tutorial guardian. A deafening roar erupted from beneath the museum. The floor exploded upward. Stone, steel, dust. Everything was blasted aside. From the darkness, a colossal armored knight slowly emerged, nearly 4 meters tall. Its armor was covered in ancient blue runes. In one hand, it held a massive sword. Its empty helmet turned toward Administrator #01. Then a name appeared above it. Tutorial Guardian, Argos, level. Administrator number 01 smiled. Finally, he raised his spear. "I've wanted this rematch for a very long time." The museum shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. The colossal knight stepped fully into the hall. its steel boots cracking the marble floor beneath its weight. Blue runes pulsed across its armor like veins of living light. Its sword was taller than Kim Jowoung. Its presence alone forced everyone nearby to their knees. A new notification appeared before every player in the museum. Tutorial Guardian awakened. Argos. Status: active. Mission: protect the developer vault. Administrator number 01 stopped walking. A genuine smile spread across his face. So, they never destroyed you. Argos answered with silence. Its empty helmet slowly turned. Not toward Jowoung, toward the administrator. It raised its enormous sword. Without warning, the guardian disappeared. The marble floor exploded where it had stood. A sonic boom ripped through the museum. Han Minsu barely had time to blink. What? The giant knight had crossed 30 meters in less than a heartbeat. Its sword crashed toward Administrator #01. Boom. The impact split the museum entrance in half. Windows shattered across nearby buildings. Outside, survivors screamed as the shockwave knocked them off their feet. When the dust settled, Administrator number 01 stood perfectly still. His black spear blocked the gigantic blade with one hand. One hand. I expected more. He twisted the spear. Argos was thrown backward through 3 concrete walls. The entire museum trembled. Jowoung stared in disbelief. Impossible. Argos wasn't weak. If anything, it was stronger than the executioner. Yet Administrator number 01 had stopped its attack effortlessly. The Guardian climbed back to its feet. Blue energy erupted from the runes covering its armor. Its sword ignited with brilliant light. A second notification appeared. Guardian Protocol 2. Threat level confirmed. Combat restrictions removed. Administrator number 01's smile disappeared. Now we're talking. Argos swung again. This time, dozens of blue blades erupted from the air around it. Every slash left glowing trails that carved through walls like paper. Administrator number 01 dodged the first, blocked the second. The third cut across his sleeve. A single drop of golden blood fell onto the floor. Silence. Everyone stared. The administrator could bleed. His golden eyes narrowed. It's been centuries. He looked at the blood on his fingertips. I almost forgot what this felt like. The temperature inside the museum suddenly dropped. Golden lightning erupted around his body. The spear transformed. Its black metal unfolded into a massive halberd covered in ancient symbols. The pressure became overwhelming. Several survivors collapsed unconscious. Even Han Minsu struggled to breathe. Jowoung gritted his teeth. Everyone, get out of the museum. No one survives if they stay here. The police officer immediately began leading civilians toward the emergency exits. Lee Seojun shouted directions. Within seconds, hundreds of survivors were fleeing into the streets. Only Jowoung remained. The silver key vibrated violently in his hand. Another window appeared. Hidden objective updated. Protect the developer vault until the Guardian wins. Warning. Estimated success rate. 4.6%. His heart sank. Less than 5%. Even Argos was expected to lose. Administrator number 01 slowly lifted his halberd. He looked directly at Kim Jowoung. Once the Guardian falls, you're next. Before Jowoung could respond, the ceiling above the museum exploded. Not from Argos, not from the administrator. Something enormous crashed down between them. A familiar roar echoed through the city. The devourer had arrived. Its massive jaws opened wide. For the first time, the administrator looked annoyed. You again. The devourer didn't attack Jowoung. It didn't attack Argos. It lunged straight at Administrator #01. 3 monsters, 1 battlefield. And Kim Jowoung had no idea which one was the greatest threat. The city had stopped pretending to be alive. No car alarms, no distant sirens. Only the wind weaving through empty buildings and the occasional system notification echoing across the sky. Kim Jowoung stood on the roof of a department store, overlooking what had once been downtown. The crimson cracks overhead had grown larger, much larger. They no longer looked like cracks. They looked like eyes beginning to open. A notification appeared. Tutorial progress day 7/30 complete. The moment the message vanished, every player heard the same chime. Global event unlocked. The 7th day, all safe zones are disabled. Monster activity increased by 300%. Elite monsters have begun hunting players. Silence. Then, A scream echoed somewhere below. Han Minsu looked up. 300%. Jowoung's expression darkened. In the original game, Day 7 was the end. The tutorial should have finished today. Nobody spoke. Another rule had changed. Another piece of knowledge had become useless. The police officer slowly lowered his binoculars. Movement. Everyone turned. The streets below were filling with monsters. Not goblins. Not tunnel stalkers. New creatures. Tall, skeletal figures wrapped in black mist. They didn't wander. They searched. System windows floated above their heads. Elite Hunter, level 18. Han Minsu swallowed. They're looking for someone. Jowoung already knew. They're looking for us. A sharp chime interrupted him. Only his party could see the next notification. Priority target updated. Current threat ranking. #1. Kim Jowoung's party. Reward increased. Alive preferred. The air froze. The university student stared at the message. There's a bounty on us. No. Jowoung answered quietly. Worse. The tutorial is encouraging monsters to hunt us. No. Jowoung answered quietly. Worse. The tutorial is encouraging monsters to hunt us. As if to confirm his words, every elite hunter below suddenly stopped moving. Then, every one of them looked toward the department store, straight at him. Even though they were dozens of streets away, one raised its head. Another smiled. Then all of them began running. Not toward random survivors, toward Kim Jowoung. Han Minsu tightened his grip on his staff. How many? Jowoung counted for only a second, then stopped. Too many. Another notification appeared. Emergency survival quest. Remain alive until sunrise. Reward. Unknown. Failure. Death. The countdown appeared. 11:59:59.12 hours. Outside. Hundreds of elite hunters sprinted through the ruined city. Behind them, something much larger emerged from one of the crimson cracks in the sky. Only an enormous hand became visible before disappearing again. Jowoung slowly drew an arrow. His voice remained calm. This isn't a battle. It's a hunt. And he watched the rooftops around them. We're the prey. Chapter 25. The first elite hunter reached the building. It didn't climb. It leaped. One bound carried it from the street to the 5th floor. A second leap. The rooftop. Kim Jowoung released his arrow. The shot struck the creature directly between the eyes. Critical hit. The monster staggered, but didn't fall. It's still alive. Han Minsu fired a firebolt. The explosion hurled the elite hunter backward off the roof. It landed on the street below, then slowly stood again. Jowoung's expression hardened. Regeneration. Another mechanic that had never existed before. Then the rest arrived. Dozens of black silhouettes flowed across neighboring rooftops like shadows. None attacked immediately. They spread out, encircling the building. They're surrounding us. The police officer tightened his grip on his baton. They're coordinating. Jowoung nodded. They're hunting. A notification appeared. Monster intelligence updated. Elite hunters have adapted to priority targets. Difficulty increased. Wonderful. The rooftops suddenly became silent. Too silent. Jowoung slowly looked upward. Something moved above them. Not in the streets. Not on nearby buildings. Above, a hunter was clinging upside down beneath a broken billboard, perfectly still, waiting. It dropped. Jowoung reacted instantly. His dagger flashed. Steel met black claws. The impact forced him back several steps. The hunter smiled. Learning. It spoke. Only one word. But that was enough. Han Minsu stared in horror. It talked. It shouldn't be able to. Jowoung's heartbeat quickened. Every new enemy broke another rule. Without warning, all the elite hunters froze. Every single one looked toward the crimson sky. A deep horn echoed across the city. Not from the system. Not from any monster they had seen before. The hunters immediately knelt, as if saluting something. The crimson cracks overhead widened. A giant eye slowly opened between them. It didn't look at the city. It looked directly at Kim Jowoung. A burning pressure crushed the rooftop. Several survivors fell to one knee. Only Jowoung remained standing. Another notification appeared. World observation established. You have attracted the attention of a higher entity. Reward? Consequence. Unknown. Higher entity, Jowoung whispered. The giant eye blinked once, then disappeared. Instantly, every elite hunter screamed. Not in pain. In excitement. Their system windows changed. Frenzy activated. Target confirmed. Eliminate Kim Jowoung. Reward multiplied. The nearest hunter lunged. Then another. Then 20 more. Jowoung drew another arrow. Run. No one hesitated. The party sprinted across the rooftops as hundreds of elite hunters surged after them, turning the silent skyline into a relentless chase. They ran. Concrete shattered beneath their feet as they jumped from rooftop to rooftop. Behind them, the elite hunters never slowed. If one missed a jump, another immediately took its place. They're hurting us, Han Minsu shouted. Kim Jowoung glanced ahead. I know. The hunters weren't trying to catch them. They were forcing them somewhere. A blue notification appeared. Danger analysis. Escape routes remaining. 4, 3, 2. The system is tracking it. Jowoung's heart sank. The city itself had become a hunting ground. The police officer pointed toward a nearby office tower. That building. Jowoung shook his head. Too obvious. The moment he finished speaking, 3 elite hunters burst through the office windows. Waiting. An ambush. They predicted us. The little sister grabbed her brother's hand tighter. Are we going to die? Nobody answered. Jowoung suddenly noticed something strange. The silver key inside his inventory was glowing again. A thin beam of light pointed west, not toward another building, toward an old suspension bridge crossing the Han River. The key is guiding us. Han Minsu frowned. You still trust that thing? I trust it more than the system. Another roar echoed across Seoul. Not from behind. Ahead, the bridge trembled. A massive shadow landed on its steel cables. It wasn't an elite hunter. It looked almost human. Tall, wrapped in black armor. A crimson title floated above its head. Hunter Captain, level 25 at the elite hunters immediately stopped. Then every one of them bowed. A leader, Jowoung whispered. The hunter captain slowly drew a long black sword. Unlike the others, its eyes showed intelligence. It smiled. So, its voice was perfectly clear. You're the famous Kim Jowoung. Everyone froze. Another monster that could speak. The captain pointed its sword toward the bridge. Come, I've been ordered to bring you back alive. A notification suddenly appeared. Emergency quest updated. Defeat the hunter captain. Or reach the western bridge within 15 minutes. Reward. Unknown. Failure. Capture. Jowoung looked at the bridge, then at the hundreds of hunters closing in behind them. We're not fighting. He drew one final arrow. We're breaking through. The hunter captain laughed. A calm, confident laugh. Good. I was hoping you'd choose the difficult path. It raised its sword. Every elite hunter in the district screamed at once. Then the hunt resumed. The hunter captain moved first, not toward Kim Jowoung, toward the bridge, as if daring him to cross. He's blocking the only path. Han Minsu gripped his staff. Jowoung's eyes swept across the steel structure. Hundreds of abandoned cars, collapsed guardrails, twisted cables, a battlefield. Perfect. Minsu blinked. Perfect. For an ambush. The hunter captain smiled. You noticed. Without warning. He vanished. A black flash crossed the bridge. Clang. Jowoung barely raised his dagger in time. The impact hurled him backward across the asphalt. His HP dropped. HP 54/100. Too strong. Much too strong. The captain didn't continue attacking. Instead, he calmly waited. You've grown, but not enough. Jowoung frowned. We've never met. The captain laughed softly. Haven't we? Before Jowoung could answer, fragments of memory flashed through his mind. A battlefield, rain, a black sword, a defeated hunter kneeling before him. Then, the vision disappeared. What was that? The captain's smile widened. So, you really don't remember. Another notification appeared. Memory resonance detected. Synchronization, 6%. Past records responding. Jowoung's heartbeat quickened. Past records. The system wasn't showing the future. It was showing another timeline. The elite hunters finally reached the bridge. Dozens, then hundreds. They surrounded both ends. No escape. The police officer looked around desperately. We're trapped. Jowoung shook his head. No. He looked at the river below. The bridge isn't our destination. Han Minsu followed his gaze. You want to jump? Not into the river. Jowoung pointed beneath the bridge. There, hidden among the steel supports, an old maintenance platform stretched beneath the roadway. The silver key was pointing directly at it, another hidden path. The hunter captain noticed. His smile disappeared. No. For the first time, he sounded worried. You are not supposed to find that place. Those words were all Jowoung needed. He smiled for the first time in hours. Then that's exactly where we're going. The captain finally lost his composure. Stop them. Every elite hunter charged at once. Jowoung didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the edge of the bridge. Jump. One after another. His companions leaped after him. Instead of falling into the river, they landed hard on the narrow maintenance platform hidden beneath the bridge. Above them, hundreds of hunters rushed to the railing, but none jumped. They simply stared down, waiting, as if something beneath the bridge frightened even them. A cold wind rose from the darkness. Then, a distant metallic bell echoed beneath the river. 1, 2, 3. A blue notification appeared before Jowoung alone. Hidden area discovered. The ferryman's passage, first discovery bonus awarded. The silver key shone brighter than ever. The maintenance platform creaked beneath their feet. Above them, the sounds of the hunters slowly faded. None of them had followed. Han Minsu looked up nervously. Why did they stop? Kim Jowoung didn't answer. His eyes remained fixed on the darkness ahead. The silver key was glowing brighter with every step. A soft mist drifted across the narrow passage beneath the bridge. The air smelled. After several minutes, the platform ended. A small stone dock appeared beneath the bridge. An underground river flowed silently into the darkness. There was no current, no sound, only perfectly still black water. A blue notification appeared. Hidden area at Ferryman's Passage. Danger rating. Crossing fee required. Crossing fee. The police officer frowned. Fee paid to who? A lantern lit itself. Then another. Then dozens. Their pale blue flames reflected across the river. A wooden boat slowly emerged from the mist. No one rowed it. It simply drifted toward them. When it reached the dock, it stopped. A hooded figure stood aboard. Its face was completely hidden. Only two faint blue lights glowed beneath the hood. The ferryman. It spoke in a calm voice. One payment. One crossing. Han Minsu whispered. Is that a monster? Jowoung slowly shook his head. I don't think so. The ferryman raised one skeletal hand. Payment. Silence. Nobody moved. Finally, the university student stepped forward and nervously offered a handful of coins from his pocket. The ferryman remained motionless. Insufficient. The coins dissolved into dust. Han Minsu tried next. A mana crystal. Insufficient. It vanished as well. The little girl quietly placed her stuffed rabbit on the dock. Can this work? For the first time, the ferryman lowered its head. Accepted. Everyone froze. What? The toy floated gently into the ferryman's hands. The boat shifted slightly, making room for one passenger. Jowoung frowned. It doesn't want valuables. It wants something important. The little girl smiled sadly. It was my favorite. Her brother looked at her in shock. You've carried that since you were little. She simply nodded. If it helps everyone, it's okay. Jowoung's chest tightened. The ferryman turned toward him. And your payment. The silver key suddenly vibrated violently. A notification appeared. Special condition detected that developer's master key recognized. Alternative payment available. Offer one memory. Jowoung's expression froze. A memory. If he accepted, he would permanently lose one memory. He didn't know which one. Han Minsu stepped beside him. There has to be another way. The ferryman remained silent, waiting, patiently. As though it had all the time in the world, Jowoung slowly closed his eyes. I'll pay. The moment he reached toward the glowing window, a deep roar echoed across the underground river. The black water rippled for the first time. The ferryman suddenly looked upstream. For the first time, its calm posture changed. Fear. A crimson notification flashed before every player. Emergency warning. Something has entered the passage. The ferryman spoke only 2 words. Too late. Suddenly, 2 crimson eyes remained fixed on the river. The ferryman slowly stepped backward. For the first time, it looked afraid. The underground water began trembling, not from waves, from something moving beneath it. Kim Jowoung instinctively raised his bow. Everyone, stay away from the water. No one argued. The little girl clung tightly to her brother. Han Minsu whispered. What is it? Jowoung slowly shook his head. I've never seen this place before. So, I have no idea. A new notification appeared. Hidden area event. The river has awakened. Objective: reach the opposite shore. Failure: become a passenger forever. Passenger. The police officer frowned. I don't like the sound of that. The ferryman lifted its lantern. The crossing must begin. The wooden boat touched the dock. Only 6 people could fit. Their party exchanged uneasy glances. Nearly 20 survivors had followed them underground. Not everyone could board. Immediately, arguments erupted. We were here first. My son goes before anyone. You can't leave us. Fear spread faster than reason. Kim Jowoung stepped between them. Stop. His voice echoed beneath the bridge. If this turns into a fight, we all die. Before anyone could answer, a splash echoed across the river. Then another. Then dozens. The black surface rippled. Pale hands slowly emerged from beneath the water, hundreds of them. Reaching upward, a woman screamed, "What are those?" Nobody answered, because the hands were multiplying. The ferryman spoke quietly. They remember everyone who falls. One desperate survivor panicked. He shoved another man aside and jumped into the boat. I don't care. I'm leaving. The ferryman looked at him silently. Then, the boat didn't move. Instead, one of the pale hands shot out of the river. It grabbed the man's ankle. He screamed as he was dragged overboard. The water swallowed him without a splash. Seconds later, silence returned. Only a single backpack floated briefly before sinking beneath the black surface. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The ferryman calmly repeated, "One payment. One crossing." Kim Jowoung looked at the glowing notification still floating before him. Offer one memory. He took a slow breath. Accept. The silver key shone brightly. A warm sensation spread through his mind. Then, something disappeared. He frowned. What? That he couldn't remember. Not because he was confused, because the memory was gone. A notification appeared. Payment accepted. Personal memory removed. Developer authority resonance increased. Synchronization, 11%. Han Minsu looked at him. Kim, you okay? Jowoung hesitated. I think so. But he knew something important had vanished. He simply couldn't remember what it had been. The ferryman nodded once. You may cross. The boat drifted away from the dock. The mist closed around them. Soon, the shore behind them disappeared completely. Only darkness remained. Then, the lantern suddenly flickered. The ferryman slowly looked into the river. It found us. The water exploded upward. A gigantic skeletal hand burst from the darkness and slammed onto the side of the boat. The entire river shook, above the wrist. Another crimson notification appeared. Ancient Guardian, the drowned king, level. The ferryman whispered only one sentence. Do not let it climb aboard. The skeletal hand tightened around the boat. Wood groaned. Cracks spread across the hull. The ferryman didn't move. It simply raised its lantern. Do not look into the water. Kim Jowoung immediately understood. Everyone, eyes forward. Most obeyed. One frightened survivor didn't. He glanced down. Just for a second, his entire body froze. Mom, his voice became strangely calm. I can see my mother. Han Minsu grabbed his shoulder. Don't. Too late. The survivor smiled. She's waiting for me. He stepped over the side of the boat. No hesitation. No scream. He walked directly into the black river. Instead of sinking, he simply disappeared beneath the surface, as though the water had swallowed his existence. A notification appeared. Mental resistance check failed. Player lost. Silence covered the boat. Jowoung clenched his fists. The river shows people what they most want to see. The ferryman nodded once. It remembers. The drowned king's hand pulled itself higher. Then another hand appeared. Then its head. The creature slowly emerged from the water. It was enormous, nearly 10 meters tall. Its body was wrapped in rusted chains. Its crown had fused with its skull. Dark water constantly poured from its empty eye sockets. Above its head floated crimson letters. Ancient Guardian, the drowned king level. The monster didn't roar. It spoke. Return. Its voice echoed across the river. What was stolen? Jowoung frowned. Stolen. The silver key suddenly became burning hot. The drowned king wasn't looking at him. It was looking at the key. The ferryman whispered. It remembers every key. Before Jowoung could ask what that meant, the king reached toward the boat. Han Minsu launched a fire spell. The flames vanished before reaching the monster. The police officer swung his baton. It passed harmlessly through the creature's arm. Physical attacks don't work, Jowoung shouted. His eyes darted around desperately. Think. There had to be a rule. Every hidden area had one. Then he noticed something. The lantern. Every time its blue light touched the king's body, the monster slowed. Ferryman. The lantern. Without a word, the ferryman tossed the lantern toward him. Jowoung caught it. Immediately, a new notification appeared. Hidden item borrowed, a ferryman's lantern. Effect. Reveals forgotten truths. He raised it toward the drowned king. The blue light spread across the river. For a brief moment, the terrifying king disappeared. Instead, Jowoung saw a normal man, a king wearing ancient armor, standing beside countless civilians, protecting them. Then the vision shattered. The monster staggered backward. It let out a painful cry. Memories. Jowoung understood. It isn't evil. It's trapped. The lantern illuminated the chains wrapped around the king's body. Every chain was covered with glowing symbols. Not prison chains, system chains. The system had imprisoned it. A blue window appeared. Hidden objective. Break one seal. Reward. Unknown. Failure. Continue crossing. Jowoung stared at the glowing chains. So that's the real battle. He tightened his grip on the lantern. We're not here to kill the king. We're here to set him free. The drowned king slowly raised its head. For the first time, its empty eyes looked directly at Kim Jowoung, and it whispered, "Successor." The word echoed across the river. Successor. Kim Jowoung stood frozen. The drowned king knew him, or it knew the title the vault had given him. The ferryman watched silently. The king remembers. Jowoung tightened his grip on the lantern. What is this seal? The ferryman slowly pointed toward the glowing chains wrapped around the king's chest. The first lie. Jowoung frowned. Lie. Before another question could leave his mouth, the river exploded. The drowned king charged. Its massive hand swept toward the boat. Down. Everyone threw themselves to the floor. The skeletal fingers passed overhead. The shockwave nearly flipped the boat. Han Minsu barely caught the edge. We're going to sink. No, Jowoung answered. The boat isn't the target. He looked at the king's eyes. It's trying to stop the key. The silver key vibrated violently. Then, it floated into the air on its own. The glowing chain around the king's chest answered. The two resonated. A new notification appeared. Hidden trial. Break the first seal. Condition. Discover the truth hidden inside the chain. Hidden inside. Jowoung raised the lantern again. The blue light washed over the glowing chain. This time, words appeared. Not system windows. Engraved memories. Prisoner #001.crime. Refused administrator authority. Jowoung stopped breathing. Prisoner. The drowned king had once refused the administrators. The chain wasn't punishment for evil. It was punishment for disobedience. Han Minsu stared at the glowing words. So, he protected people, and they imprisoned him. The ferryman lowered its head. They feared kings, who chose humanity. The chains suddenly tightened. The king roared in agony. Black lightning erupted from the seal. A crimson message flashed. Security response. Unauthorized truth revealed. Correction beginning. The glowing words began disappearing. Someone, or something, was trying to erase them again. Jowoung reacted instantly. The key. He pressed the silver key against the chain. Blue and crimson light collided. The entire river shook. Cracks spread across the glowing seal. The drowned king screamed. Not in pain. In relief. Crack. One link shattered. A wave of blue light burst across the river. Every pale hand beneath the water vanished. The mist lifted. For the first time, the opposite shore became visible. The king slowly lowered its head. One of the chains had disappeared. Only 6 remained. A notification appeared. Hidden quest complete. First seal broken. Synchronization, 15%. Reward obtained. Memory fragment. The first rebellion. A crystal of pale blue light materialized in Jowoung's hand. Before he could inspect it, the drowned king spoke again. Its voice was no longer filled with rage. It sounded human. 6 remain. Jowoung looked up. Who chained you? The king slowly raised one trembling finger, not toward the sky, not toward the administrators, toward something even farther away. The one above them. The ferryman's blue lantern suddenly went dark. Its expression changed for the first time. Fear. Absolute fear. Then a deafening chime echoed across the river. A message appeared before every player. Global hidden event triggered. The first seal has been broken. Unknown entities have taken notice. Far beyond the crimson sky, something slowly opened its eyes. The river became silent, not peaceful. Watching, Kim Jowoung stared at the fading notification. Unknown entities have taken notice. His heartbeat quickened. What did we just awaken? The ferryman slowly reclaimed its lantern. Its blue flame returned. Barely. Not awakened. It has always been watching. The boat reached the opposite shore. The moment Jowoung stepped onto solid ground, the silver key floated into the air. It turned once, then unlocked. Nothing, at least, nothing visible. The space in front of them rippled, like invisible glass shattering. An ancient stone staircase slowly appeared. It climbed upward into complete darkness. A notification appeared. Hidden route unlocked. Path of the successor. Only authorized players may enter. Han Minsu frowned. Did everyone get that? No. Jowoung already knew the answer. Only he could see it. The others saw only an ordinary staircase. He looked back toward the river. The drowned king had disappeared. Only one sentence echoed through the mist. Do not trust. The voice suddenly cut off, as if someone had erased it. Jowoung frowned. Not trust who? No answer came. The ferryman slowly pushed its boat away from the shore. Our paths end here. Han Minsu stepped forward. Wait. Who are you? For the first time, the ferryman lifted its hood. Not completely, only enough for them to see. A human face, old, tired, covered in glowing blue cracks. Its eyes rested on Jowoung. I failed. Perhaps. You won't. The boat drifted back into the mist. Seconds later, it was gone. Only silence remained. Jowoung looked toward the hidden staircase. Let's move. The group climbed. 1 floor, 10 floors, 50. There was no end. Nobody spoke. Nobody complained. Until the staircase finally ended. They emerged beneath the open sky. Han Minsu froze. Where are we? They weren't in Seoul anymore. At least, not the Seoul they knew. The city stretched endlessly in every direction. Countless floating islands hovered above the streets. Blue rivers flowed through the sky. Entire skyscrapers hung upside down, as if gravity itself had broken. Jowoung whispered. Impossible. Another notification appeared. Secret region discovered. Layer 2. Access granted. Every member of the party received it. Even Jowoung looked surprised. Layer 2. The tutorial had layers. A distant bell echoed through the strange city. 1, 2, 3 times. Then, hundreds of blue windows appeared across the sky. Not system notifications. Names. Thousands of names, each followed by a percentage. Synchronization, 12%, 18%, 24%, 41%. Han Minsu looked around in confusion. Whose names are those? Jowoung's expression slowly darkened. Players and... But they aren't from Earth. Before anyone could react, one of the floating names suddenly disappeared. The percentage beside it became 0%. A distant scream echoed across the city. Then silence. A calm mechanical voice spread across the entire layer. Candidate eliminated. At 781 remain. The party stood frozen. Kim Jowoung looked toward the endless horizon. Earth wasn't the only world taking the tutorial. It never had been. And somewhere high above Layer 2, a young woman in a white laboratory coat quietly watched him through a floating screen. She smiled. You're finally here. Chapter 33. The strange sky never moved. No sun, no moon. Only countless floating islands drifting above the endless city. Kim Jowoung lowered his bow. Layer 2. It feels real. Han Minsu nodded slowly. It doesn't look like a game anymore. A soft chime echoed. Not from the system, from every direction. The blue names floating overhead suddenly disappeared, one by one. Then a single notification appeared before every player. Layer 2 tutorial. Welcome, candidates. Survive. Grow. Replace. Jowoung's eyes narrowed. Replace. Before he could think further, footsteps echoed through the empty street. One person, walking calmly toward them. Not a monster. A young woman. Around 25 years old, short black hair, a long white coat. The same woman from the archive recording. She smiled gently. Kim Jowoung. Han Minsu immediately raised his staff. You know him? She ignored the question. Instead, she looked directly at Jowoung. You've grown faster than expected. Jowoung drew an arrow. Who are you? She stopped several meters away. My designation is Candidate Zero. Silence. You were called the lead developer. I was it. But that title died a very long time ago. Jowoung frowned. So you're alive. She smiled sadly. Not exactly. Her body flickered. For a split second, they could see countless streams of blue code beneath her skin. I've become part of the system. Han Minsu whispered. That's possible. She nodded. If you stay connected long enough, you stop being human. Jowoung's grip tightened. Why bring me here? Candidate Zero looked toward the crimson sky. Because Earth has reached its final stage. The next 7 days will decide whether your world survives. A blue window appeared. Main quest updated. Reach synchronization 25%. Time remaining until final trial. 0.7 days. Jowoung froze. 7. So that's why the tutorial became 30 days. Candidate Zero slowly nodded. The original tutorial was never enough. Not anymore. She walked past the party. Without fear, without hesitation. The enemy evolved. So the tutorial had to evolve first. Jowoung turned toward her. Who is the enemy? For the first time, she didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked upward, far beyond the crimson cracks, beyond the floating islands, beyond the sky itself. Then she quietly spoke. The first civilization. A chill ran through everyone. The creators? She slowly shook her head. No. The survivors. Silence. They won. They became stronger than the system. And now, they consume every new civilization before it can reach them. Han Minsu stared in disbelief. So, the monsters they're not the final enemy. Candidate Zero smiled sadly. They're only the entrance exam. At that exact moment, every floating island in the sky trembled. A massive shadow passed overhead. None of them could see its full body, only one enormous eye. Watching, a crimson notification flashed. Observation detected that a higher civilization has noticed Earth. Synchronization bonus revoked. Candidate Zero's expression changed instantly. Run. For the first time, they're looking directly at you. The gigantic eye slowly opened completely, and the entire sky blinked. The sky blinked. The enormous eye remained fixed on Kim Jowoung. No one moved. No one even breathed. A pressure unlike anything they had ever felt descended upon Layer 2. Han Minsu fell to one knee. I can't move. Even the police officer struggled to stay standing. Only Candidate Zero remained calm. Don't look back. Jowoung frowned. What? They don't truly see us yet. They're only observing. If we attract more attention, they'll begin interfering. The gigantic eye slowly closed. The pressure disappeared instantly. Everyone collapsed, gasping for air. Silence lingered for several long seconds. Finally, Han Minsu managed to speak. What was that? Candidate Zero answered quietly. The weakest observer. Nobody liked the sound of that. A new notification appeared. Observation ended. Attention level 1%. Safe threshold maintained. Jowoung stared at the number. 1%. And it almost crushed us. Candidate Zero nodded. Imagine 100. She continued walking through the abandoned streets. The party followed. The city felt strangely peaceful. No monsters, no civilians, only endless buildings floating between fragments of broken sky. Eventually, they reached a circular plaza. At its center stood 12 enormous stone statues. Each depicted a different race: humans, creatures with wings, four-armed giants, beings made of crystal. Only one statue had been destroyed. Nothing remained except broken feet. Jowoung stepped closer. Who destroyed this one? Candidate Zero looked at the empty pedestal. No one remembers. The first civilization erased every record. Han Minsu frowned. They erased an entire civilization. They erased thousands. Silence. Candidate Zero touched one of the remaining statues. They don't conquer worlds. They erase them. Their history. Their language. Their names. Eventually, it's as though they never existed. Jowoung looked at the shattered pedestal. So that's what waits for Earth. She nodded once. If humanity loses it, There won't be survivors. There won't even be memories. The silver key suddenly began glowing, not toward the plaza, toward the broken pedestal. A hidden compartment opened beneath the shattered stone. Inside rested a small crystal sphere. A notification appeared. Ancient memory found. Compatibility check. Compatible. Jowoung carefully picked it up. The world around him vanished. He stood in the middle of a brilliant city. Children laughed in the streets. People smiled. The sky was blue, a normal world. Then, darkness spread across the heavens. Not clouds, shadows, millions of them. The smiling people looked upward. Some prayed, some ran, none escaped. Within minutes, cities disappeared, mountains dissolved. Even the oceans faded into nothing. Finally, a calm voice echoed across the dying world. Civilization rejected. Everything turned white. Jowoung staggered backward into the plaza. His breathing was uneven. Han Minsu caught him. What happened? Jowoung stared at the crystal. I watched it. An entire world die. Before anyone could react, every statue in the plaza cracked at the same time. Boom. Stone fragments crashed across the square. Only one statue remained intact. The human statue. Its eyes slowly opened. Blue light filled the ancient carving. Then, it spoke. Candidate, you are late. A golden notification appeared before Jowoung alone. Main story quest updated. Proceed to the Hall of Successors. Distance. 1.2 km reward. The truth of the tutorial. Candidate 0 slowly smiled. Good. You've reached the point where the tutorial finally begins. The ancient statue lowered its stone arm. Its glowing eyes remained fixed on Kim Jowoung. Follow. Without another word, it turned and began walking. Every step shook the plaza. Han Minsu looked at Jowoung. Are we seriously following a talking statue? Jowoung gave a small nod. We've come too far to turn back. The party followed. Candidate 0 stayed behind. She watched them leave without moving. This part, I can't enter. Jowoung stopped. Why not? She smiled faintly. Because I already failed. Silence. Then the statue spoke again. Hurry. Time grows short. They crossed the silent city. The streets became older. Buildings slowly gave way to enormous stone ruins. At the center stood a massive circular structure. It resembled neither a castle nor a temple. It looked built for giants. Above the entrance floated ancient silver letters. Hall of Successors. Only candidates may enter. The silver key began vibrating. The enormous doors slowly opened on their own. A cold wind swept out. Inside, hundreds of stone thrones stretched into the darkness. Almost every throne was empty, broken, covered in dust. Only 3 remained intact. One emitted blue light, one golden, one black. Han Minsu whispered, "What is this place?" The statue answered, "The place where worlds choose their guardians." Jowoung slowly approached the blue throne. The moment he came within a few meters, that a transparent figure appeared above it, a young woman. Not Candidate 0, someone older. She looked directly at him. Candidate confirmed. Synchronization, 15%. Evaluation, acceptable. Jowoung frowned. Who are you? I am the memory of the first successor. She looked around the ruined hall. Or what remains of her. Han Minsu stared at the endless broken thrones. Did all these people fail? The woman closed her eyes. No, they succeeded. Silence. What? They protected their worlds. Until the first civilization arrived. The room became painfully quiet. So, there was never a happy ending. The memory smiled sadly. There was it. It simply didn't last. She raised one hand. The blue throne began glowing. A new notification appeared. Successor trial available. Choose one reward. Successor weapon. Successor skill. Successor memory. Jowoung stared at the 3 choices. Each could completely change the battles ahead. Before he could decide, a deafening alarm echoed throughout the hall. Every throne turned crimson. Warning. Unauthorized presence detected. The statue immediately drew a gigantic stone sword. Its calm voice became urgent. Hide. A familiar voice echoed from the entrance. So, this is where you've been hiding. Everyone turned. Administrator number 01 walked calmly into the hall. His golden halberd rested on one shoulder. He smiled politely. I've been looking everywhere for you. Jowoung slowly reached for his bow. How did you find this place? Administrator number 01's smile widened. I didn't. He looked directly at the silver key. It brought me. The blue light inside the hall suddenly dimmed. The memory of the first successor whispered only one sentence. Do not let him reach the Black Throne. Jowoung's eyes snapped toward the enormous black throne at the end of the hall. For the first time, Administrator number 01 wasn't looking at him. He was looking at it, with unmistakable anticipation. Administrator number 01 didn't even glance at Kim Jowoung. His golden eyes remained fixed on the Black Throne. After all these years, it's still here. The ancient statue stepped between him and the throne. Its stone sword ignited with blue light. No administrator may approach. Administrator number 01 sighed. You guardians never learn. He took another step. The entire hall trembled. Blue energy burst from every remaining throne. 3 transparent warriors appeared beside the statue. Former successors. Their bodies shimmered like fading memories. One carried a sword, another a staff, the third a bow. Jowoung's eyes widened. They're still fighting. The first successor's memory nodded. They swore an oath. Their worlds are gone, but their duty remains. Administrator number 01 smiled. How admirable, and completely pointless. Without warning, thought he vanished. Boom. The statue blocked his halberd just before it reached the Black Throne. The collision shook the entire hall. Stone pillars cracked. Blue light erupted in every direction. The 3 successors attacked together. Hundreds of glowing arrows, walls of fire, a storm of blades. Administrator number 01 walked straight through them. Every attack dissolved before touching him. Too weak. He waved one hand. The archer shattered into blue fragments. The mage disappeared next. Only the swordsman remained. He charged without hesitation. Administrator number 01 caught the blade between 2 fingers. Crack. The sword broke. The successor faded away with a quiet smile. Protected. The future. Then, nothing. Silence filled the hall. Han Minsu stared in horror. He destroyed them. Jowoung slowly shook his head. Note, they were only memories. But even memories can die. The ancient statue roared. Blue runes covered its body. A notification appeared. Hall Defense Protocol. Final Guardian released. Power limiters removed. The statue doubled in size. Its sword transformed into a massive spear of blue crystal. Administrator number 01 laughed. Finally, this is the Guardian I remember. The battle resumed. This time, the hall itself became the battlefield. Blue and golden light collided again and again. Neither side gained ground. Jowoung's silver key suddenly floated from his hand. It pointed, not toward the blue throne, not toward the black throne, toward the golden throne. A hidden compartment opened beneath it. Inside rested a single black book. Its cover bore no title, only a silver handprint. A notification appeared. Hidden archive found. Administrator records. Access requirement. Synchronization 15%. Jowoung hesitated for only a second. Then he opened the book. The first page contained only one sentence. Administrator #01. Original title. First successor of Earth. His breathing stopped. Earth? Han Minsu looked over his shoulder. What does it say? Jowoung slowly looked up at Administrator #01. The man who had hunted him since the beginning. The man smiled faintly. So, you finally discovered who I used to be. The hall fell silent. For the first time, Administrator number 01 wasn't looking at Jowoung as an enemy. He was looking at him as his replacement. Silence. No one moved. Han Minsu slowly turned toward Kim Jowoung. Did I read that correctly? Jowoung kept staring at the black book. His voice barely escaped his lips. Administrator number 01 was Earth's first successor. Administrator number 01 smiled. There was a time when they called me human. The hall seemed colder. The Guardian lowered its crystal spear, not in surrender, in hesitation. Jowoung looked up. You protected Earth. I did. You became its successor. I did. Then why are you hunting us? Administrator number 01 closed the distance between them with slow, measured steps. Because I survived. What? I completed the tutorial. I defeated the enemies. I protected my world. His expression remained calm. Then, for the first time, sadness crossed his face. And it wasn't enough. The hall fell silent. They came. The first civilization. I fought. I lost. Images suddenly burst from the black book. An older Earth. Cities burning beneath a crimson sky. Millions of people standing together. A lone warrior covered in blue light. Administrator #01. Back when he was still human, he fought. Until Earth disappeared. Not exploded. Not destroyed. Erased. As though it had never existed. The vision ended. Han Minsu whispered. Everyone. They all died. Administrator #01 slowly nodded. I was the only one left. Jowoung tightened his fists. So the administrators. They recruited you. They offered me one thing. He looked directly into Jowoung's eyes. A chance to stop it from happening again. Silence. You accepted. I did. And now, I choose which worlds deserve another chance. Jowoung shook his head. Note. You choose it. Which worlds deserve to die? For the first time, Administrator #01 stopped smiling. You still believe everyone can be saved? I used to believe that too. The black book suddenly trembled. New words appeared. Successor record updated. Earth. First successor. Failed. Second successor candidate. Kim Jowoung. Evaluation pending. Administrator #01 looked at the words for a long moment. Then, he quietly asked, Do you know why I came here? Jowoung remained silent. It wasn't to kill you. It was to test you. He pointed toward the black throne. Sit. Han Minsu immediately stepped forward. Kim, don't. The guardian raised its spear once more. Candidate. Do not accept. Two opposite warnings. One choice. The black throne began glowing. A final notification appeared. Final successor trial available. Accept the throne? Yes/no. Before Jowoung could decide, the entire hall shook violently. A deafening roar echoed from outside. Not the devourer. Not an administrator. Something vastly older. Cracks spread across the ceiling. Golden light poured through them. Then, a gigantic hand descended from the sky itself. Not toward Jowoung. Not toward Administrator #01. Toward the hall. Toward the black throne. Administrator #01's calm expression vanished completely. Impossible. They've arrived early. The colossal hand continued descending. It was larger than the entire hall of successors. Its fingers weren't made of flesh. They were formed from countless stars, galaxies, and streams of black light. The ceiling shattered without making a sound. Reality itself bent beneath its presence. Han Minsu collapsed to his knees. I can't breathe. Even Administrator #01 took a step back. His grip tightened around his halberd. Note, it shouldn't be able to enter the tutorial. The ancient guardian drove its crystal spear into the floor. Blue barriers erupted around the hall. For a brief moment, the descending hand stopped. A calm voice echoed from beyond the crimson sky. Not loud, yet every living being heard it. Candidate detected. Evaluation commencing. Kim Jowoung frowned. Evaluation? The voice continued. Earth. Candidate world number 4721. Second successor. Potential. A long pause followed. Then, insufficient. A crimson notification covered the sky. Higher civilization verdict. Planetary termination authorized. Execution countdown. 0.72:00:00. Silence. Nobody spoke. Nobody could. Earth had just been sentenced. Administrator #01 slowly closed his eyes. So, this is how it ends. Jowoung looked at him. You knew it. I hoped it. We still had more time. The guardian suddenly roared. Every remaining blue throne erupted with light. The spirits of countless forgotten successors appeared throughout the hall. Hundreds, then thousands. Warriors from worlds long erased. Without a single word, they all faced the descending hand. The guardian raised its spear. For every world. Blue light erupted across the hall. The successors answered together. We stand. They charged. Thousands of spirits soared into the sky. The colossal hand didn't move. It merely lowered one finger. The entire army disappeared. Not defeated. Erased. As though they had never existed. Han Minsu stared in horror. They're gone. Administrator #01 lowered his head. That's the difference. We fight. They rewrite reality. The black throne suddenly pulsed. The silver key floated from Jowoung's hand. the master key, the memory cube, the developer fragment. Every artifact he had collected began orbiting him. A final notification appeared. Final synchronization available. Current synchronization, 0.15%. Emergency override possible. Estimated synchronization after merge, 0.100%. Warning, human identity cannot be guaranteed. Jowoung read the final line twice. If he accepted, he might save Earth, but he might cease to be human. Han Minsu grabbed his arm. Kim, I don't know what that thing means, but don't disappear. Jowoung looked at his friends, the people who had survived beside him since day one. Then he looked toward the sky. He slowly raised his hand toward the glowing window. Administrator number 01 watched silently. Now, I finally understand why the vault chose you. Jowoung took one final breath. Then he pressed. Yes, a pillar of brilliant blue light erupted from the black throne. The entire tutorial froze. Even the gigantic hand stopped moving. Something beyond the sky spoke with unmistakable surprise. Impossible. The original developer's successor has awakened.